We went to Canada to see the US product boycotts, and what we found was striking. I don't know if it's gonna be striking, but let's check it out. And if you are checking me out for the first time, welcome, man. Enjoy. I'm not gonna lie, I don't do a lot of the theatrics, but you know, we'll just chill out, man. We'll just chill, bro.
Here traditionally would have been filled with U.S. corn. Customers love it because it's a great product. What started as a big display has been shrunk.
In response to U.S. tariffs and President Trump's threats to annex Canada, 71% of Canadian consumers say they intend to buy fewer American products this year. That's having an impact. The U.S. economy could lose up to 0.3% of its GDP, or about $90 billion in 2025.
Bro, that ain't nothing compared to the U.S. deficit. They'll rinse $90 billion in like 3 weeks, bro. To where we live in, man. I don't know if you guys are Canadian. I'm American. I actually am born. I live in Wisconsin. We're like brothers, man. We're like neighbors. Just don't come across that line. No, I'm kidding. I do want to go to Canada one day. When I get things settled, I'll take a trip out there. Hell, it's only like 5 hours.
To the boycott of American goods and the decline in foreign tourism. Giancarlo Tremarchi is the owner of Vince's Market, a Canadian grocery store chain with 4 locations. He's seen the backlash firsthand.
Talk to me a bit about how the Buy Canada movement has affected you at the grocery store. Our customers are demanding from us as much Canadian product as possible. They're getting frustrated and upset when they see too much U.S. product.
We've obviously seen the very visible and visceral reaction from markets to US policies, but it's very interesting to see from the consumer side what impact it's having. And these little acts of activism from consumers who have decided to turn their back on certain US products.
If there was a Canadian version.
Dude, I'm turning my back on U.S. products, dude. I'm not paying for this, bro. I don't know how we got to this point, but dude, I'm not spending $12 on a Milky Way, bro. So I'm just not gonna buy it. That's just how I feel.
In an American version, we probably already delisted the American version in support of the Canadian product because that's what our customers are looking for.
And several countries, including Canada and Mexico and some in the European Union, are responding to aggressive U.S. trade policies with retaliatory tariffs of their own.
The U.S. tariffs look like they're going to last for the duration of the Trump administration in one form or another. That's going to keep other countries kind of in a negative mood towards U.S. goods and services.
So what impact is the boycott on U.S. goods and travel having? And
super, I don't know what the word is, but I'm gonna ask anyways. Is that what your guys' $100 bills look like? I don't have a $100 bill around here, but that's interesting. I always found that's what I should start collecting too. Maybe I'll start collecting currency. I feel like that'd be pretty cool. I mean, since it's dying, but this would just be just for fun. But is that what your $100 bills look like? Interesting.
Is this just a political statement or a permanent shift in buying behavior? CNBC went to Canada to find out. Vince's Market got its start in Toronto in 1986 and serves about 30,000 customers weekly.
March was when the real tariff threat was like all the news. We had Canada flags everywhere in the state.
Maybe the word I was thinking of was ignorant. I gotta ask another ignorant question. Is your language completely the same? I noticed you guys pronounce stuff a little bit differently. Hell, we do in America too. There's a lot of different dialects, but I feel like this is so ignorant, but you guys also speak like complete English too, right? Or is there differences, or what is, I don't know. I feel really stupid for saying that.
Sure.
Tremarchi says since then, his customers have moved decisively away from U.S. products.
At the height of when we are out of Canada's growing season, we could be upwards of 60%, 70% American produce, okay? Right now, we're only running at about 30%.
Canadian flags and labels mark domestic goods in aisles, while apps like MapleScan help shoppers identify origin.
You take a photo of a product, the app will scan what that product is, figure out what it is, the label.
Man, is that even necessary, man? People will make an app for anything. Hey man, this is an app to tell you when you should go to sleep, man. Why? Why? I mean, I know why this D-bag is doing it, but Why do people want this?
We'll look up information online about it, essentially compile all that information together into a product page to kind of give you information about like the company's history, who it's been owned by in the past versus now, what are its Canadian ties.
But some items are hard to replace.
Mangoes and pears you can get from different parts of the world. When you get into things like Anjou and Bartlett pears, right now you can only get them from the United States.
The most in demand and the hardest ones to replace from the US is typically berries, citrus, and greens, lettuce.
If there is produce from the US and produce from Canada, and they're the same, of course, I'll go Canadian, of course.
We've always been very pro-Canadian, even way before all this stuff happened. This just reinforced it.
Canada is America's second largest food export market, worth $28.4 billion in 2024. The boycott has impacted other parts of the store too.
How is that affecting kind of these perceived American products like Coca-Cola or Lay's? Yeah, Coca-Cola and Lay's are great examples of global brands. They actually bottle Coke bottles in Canada, about an hour and 30 minutes north of here. Frito-Lay uses Canadian potatoes. There would have been no identification of where Frito-Lay products were made. It would have been small and on the back. Once they realized that they were getting a bad rap, they went ahead and they added Made in Canada labels permanently onto the bags.
American staples like wine, beer, and spirits have seen the biggest change being wiped off Canadian shelves. Earlier this
I am a wine guy. I'm not gonna lie. I love me some wine. I don't know. I don't really drink much. I feel like it's not really for me. It gives me headaches, right? But if I do drink, I feel like that's what I would probably go for.
This year, multiple Canadian provinces announced they were pulling American alcohol from their store shelves. And in March, Canada imposed a 25% tariff on all U.S. alcohol products. A 25% tariff on distilled spirit imports from Mexico and Canada could cost more than 31,000 U.S. jobs.
So we're in our wine section now. Our wine business, roughly 35-40% of our red wine sales is California cabs and blends. So that's $60,000 a week in sales that are just gone. They've evaporated from the United States. We're replacing it, and we're replacing it with import wines from France, from South Africa, from Australia, from New Zealand.
In 2024, Canada was the U.S.'s top export market for alcohol, exporting $435 million worth of wine, $221 million in distilled spirits, and $41 million in beer to Canada. The loss to the U.S. is a boon to Canada, with the Buy Canada movement adding roughly $10 billion.
Bro, they don't care about this. I'm gonna be real with you. If you're Canadian, America does not care about this. I don't even think Canada cares about this. Bro, nobody cares. They're just gonna move and adjust and then boom, it's done. Like, I feel like we're the ones that have to care because we're the ones seeing the effects, but these bigger dudes don't care. So they're like, whatever, sure, bro.
To the country's economy. Giancarlo thinks if the tariff dispute is resolved, the boycott might ease, but it's unlikely every customer will go back to buying American.
So I actually just had to respond to a customer from last week that came in and felt like we had too much American product, and they told us they're not going to shop at our store anymore.
And just like shelves are being cleared of American products, international travelers are clearing their travel plans to America, turning away from the country as a destination. More Canadians visit the U.S. each year than from any other country. In 2024, 20 million Canadians visited the U.S., generating $20.5 billion in spending.
You guys are pulling up? Oh, snap. I don't think I really... Bro, this is hilarious, but I live in Wisconsin, and I don't think I've ever run across a Canadian. I don't think I've ever have, but that's so weird. I feel like I should, though, right? Maybe there's some people that are Canadian, I just don't know about it, but either way, I didn't know you guys were really coming through like that, man. That's kind of cool.
But the flow is slowing. Online travel searches from Canada to the U.S. dropped 50% this spring.
If you look at Canadian drive traffic, it was down nearly 30% in March. Air travel, not as bad. Combined, it was down about 15%.
And you hear it anecdotally, either Canadians staying in Canada for vacation or going to somewhere else like Europe.
Businesses along the northern U.S. border report plunging revenues, vanishing foot traffic, and uncertainty over survival.
When you look at that border traffic, as you said, Michigan, obviously with Windsor and Detroit right there. When you look at New York State, Buffalo, they've taken the brunt of that fall in Canadian travel.
And it's not just Canada. Across the Atlantic, travel to the US from Europe is also dropping.
Sort of early indications from Europe that that might be the case too. A core saying that bookings from Europe to the US are down 25% over the summer period.
The pullback is costly. The U.S. is on track to lose $12.5 billion in international visitor spending this year compared with 2024. It's part of a sharp reversal over the past decade, but tensions tied to trade and immigration are making it worse.
It's about $200 billion that these international travelers spend. That's bigger than all of our agricultural exports combined. We need these travelers here, obviously, from a job standpoint, a spending standpoint. When these travelers come, they do nothing more than come, spend their money, and go home and tell their friends and family to do the same thing. It's free money. So discouraging these travelers, letting this deficit grow as we seek to balance the trade deficit, we're only digging a deeper hole. What are we doing to send a message that we want you coming to the United States? And that's what's been missing.
From goods to getaways, the impact of U.S. policy has reshaped.
I'm not gonna lie. Once again, they don't care really. I feel like people are going to eventually realize that this is going to sound crazy, but they're actually pushing us to spend way less because they're basically leading people in this direction where people don't buy as much stuff because it's super expensive, right? So instead of you going to the store and buying a bag of chips, a candy bar, a soda, and some beef jerky for $15, they would prefer you come in and buy a bag of chips and a Snickers bar and a canned soda for $15. They know this will slow down buying, but they plan to do this anyways because they're moving into different asset classes, which will be the bulk of where the money comes from, because they're going in this kind of like eco-friendly type deal where it's like they're gonna pass it off as that, but it's basically everything's gonna be so expensive you can't buy anything really, and they'll just adjust, and then it'll be like, oh, we only sold 100,000 Lays, but we sold them at $30, so it's like, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it's all just an adjustment, but I think it's us that doesn't realize why they're doing this. And like, I'm gonna say it, they're moving everything digitally. So they're moving into cryptocurrency with a lot of their stuff. So everything's digital. They don't need you to actually input a bunch of work for their other businesses, right? It doesn't matter anymore. But that's a whole nother,
international behavior. And the ripple effects may be long lasting. The boycotts that began in Canada have spread. European consumers frustrated with American foreign policy are rejecting U.S. companies as well. And anger over Trump's comments about annexing Greenland led 44% of European consumers to say they're shifting away from U.S. products, no matter what happens with trade negotiations.
Tesla, McDonald's, these being front of mind, some of these really big household US names that they've just been rejected by some consumers in Europe.
Tesla has seen the brunt of the boycotts. Its European car sales have tanked for the 5th straight month in May, with sales plunging almost 28% from brand damage, increased competition, and the political views of CEO Elon Musk.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I would like a Tesla. If I was gonna, well, see, with the pricing, they're super good to buy right now, but I know Teslas can be a lot of hassle. I would need so many things straightened out before I got a Tesla, but it would either be a Tesla. But see, I'm not trying to buy a car because that's also finesse. I don't need to buy another car just because I want one, you know? But let's say I just make like $2 million and I just have this money to spend. Then it'd either be a Tesla or it'd be like, I like Corvettes a lot. And they're reasonably priced if I find the correct one, but Teslas are really cheap now. That's all I was getting at.
Want to temper the optimism a little bit. It's tough out there. I mean, the markets, particularly in the US and then developed Europe also.
I like how this dude just has Jack Daniels in the background. I guess he's maybe some type of, maybe he's not though. I thought he was gonna say he's like some type of alcohol businessman or something, but I don't know if he is. Maybe he just loves the Jack Daniels. I'm not gonna lie though, Jack Daniels is pretty good. It's decent.
They remain very subdued. The trends, the total distilled spirits, which would be total spirit takeaway, in these markets are not anywhere near where they were 2 or 3 years ago.
The fallout from America's trade wars is no longer limited to tariffs and boycotts. Global growth is now projected to slow by nearly half a percentage point as a result.
In terms of global GDP growth, that is a big number because the annual growth is maybe like 3.5 or 4%.
I think we got the idea, man. Well, see you guys on the other side, man. Peace.